is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to Dope Interviews, brought to you by the mighty 19 Media Group. I'm your host, Warren Shaw, and welcome to Season 7. Season 7 of Dope Interviews, just in time for back to school. In the virtual building today, I have an entrepreneur, changemaker, author, and the founder and CEO of the Entertainment Industry College Outreach Program, Stacy Milner. Mama Stace. What's good, Stacy? How you doing? Welcome to Dope Interviews.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us. The program, the work that you're doing, obviously is immense, and we're excited to be able to highlight some of that. So obviously, from the interview style, we'll have a lot of questions, but I'm more interested, just kind of some of the storytelling and some of the experience that you've had throughout this journey. So we'll kind of start with just a very, very simple question, and that is, what inspired you to create, this opportunity?
Wonderful. I was inspired because I am the former assistant to the chairmen of NBC and Paramount, and put in a lot of years behind the scenes and always heard people talking about, we want to create more equity and inclusion and, affirmative rights. I mean, I've been there since a long, long time ago. And so I actually, own a staffing agency. So we've been staffing in the industry for 30 years. And so we had people actually asking us, they couldn't find diverse talent. But I literally wrote a book called Leveraging Up, the Key to Launching Your Entertainment Career, and went on a book tour to colleges and universities across the country and realized there was a disconnect between industry and our institutions. I would just ask by a show of hands, how many, major entertainment organizations had ever been to your campus? No hands would go up. I would ask them about industry lingo and terminology. It was a deer in headlight. And I was like, this is crazy. I want to create an opportunity for these students to have entry into the industry. And we know those key onboard places is through internships. And so that's really where, the idea came from. And I literally was on a plane coming back from Boston. And I said, I'm going to the industry and say, if you're serious about diversity and inclusion, then I'm going to do an HBCU college tour and bring this forum to campus. And that's what I did. And I started that in 2010.
Wow. Succinct. But, a lot of in to unpack, I think that in general, you also had some interaction, I think, with the Obama campaign, when they were in office as well, too. Talk to us a little bit about that interaction, and is the program in any way still affiliated with the Office of the President?
Yes. So, that was a very special moment, needless to say. But it was a result of me going to the industry and saying I was going to do this HBCU college tour. I launched it, as I mentioned, in 2010. It was so successful that in 2012, I got a call from President Obama's team. And they said, we heard about you. How do we help expand you to our stakeholders and help you reach more of the HBCUs? Because as you know, a handful get all the love, and there's 101 of these institutions. And I said, I love it. I would love for you all to come to LA, meet the industry, and let's do something. So they're like, what do we need to do? We want to be there. And so at the time, the Television Academy was a partner with us. And they were like, Stacy, we'll host this for you. So they rolled out the red carpet. We ended up at a fancy hotel in Beverly Hills and brought together about 50, 60 major power players across the industry. I got a chance to share what I had been doing in terms of boots on the ground, which had got the president's team's attention. And then secondly, the White House team had an opportunity to share about the White House initiative on HBCUs, which, by the way, has been around since Jimmy Carter's days, right? But it's always a new executive order that gets signed every time there's a new president. So President Obama's team said, this is what we're doing, this is what the initiative is about. And so we began our discussion and realized that there were two barriers to entry for HBCU students in the industry. And that's when EICOP, the Entertainment Industry College Outreach Program, was born as a nonprofit organization. And so we still have a very robust partnership with the White House initiative on HBCUs, and thrilled to have their backing and their support and commitment to the work that we're doing.
Not to stray too far, but obviously political tensions are what they are now. And, no matter who wins the election coming up here too, is there any stress on your part? You've already obviously built a an independent program, kind of regardless of the White House support. But is there any, threat from your side in terms of what might happen with that executive order that has been kind of like rubber stamped since the Carter days?
Yeah. I don't, because the previous administration, that one would think maybe wasn't so supportive, right, actually, allowed that to continue. And if it goes the other way, I think it'll just be a slam dunk, and we'll probably have even more impact going forward with the partnership.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So what are some of the challenges that I think you've faced with this program? And I want to even relate that question to, because obviously race is a huge topic kind of in general in HBCUs and the helping of them in some ways. Have you faced, I guess, racism, microaggressions in your time? And how did you overcome that? And then I guess relating that to, any challenges that you faced in getting this program started, I think initially.
Yeah. Personally, in my own life and my time in the industry, specifically, I actually haven't. And I think that holds true with what everybody says, right? Black women don't seem to be so much of a threat as a Black man in the industry. I found, obviously I was at the assistant level, but I did, assist the chairmans of the studio. But I didn't really face a lot myself, but I could see that going up the hall, where the other executives were, under the president and chairman, I could count them on 3 fingers, and they weren't in very high positions. And so that was something that I observed and noticed across the industry. But when it comes to this program, of course I had challenges, right? Because what are HBCUs? I mean, I started this in 2009. No one knew what an HBCU acronym stood for. I mean, I heard HBCs, you're talking about the bank. Like, what are you talking about? So it was a whole education to like who our HBCUs were. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they have 150-year history and legacy, have produced visionaries and leaders down through the years. But I was out there really trying to pound the pavement. And it was not until the Obama administration got behind what we were doing, and I was bringing them to Hollywood, that now everybody wants to talk to me, right? But at any rate, that was a real door opener for us to be able to have that backing. But as a result of that, we brought together a lot of powerful industry people. And so we ended up at one studio, which will remain nameless, but they were like, Stacy, like the Oscars need to fix their hashtag, Oscars so white, right? And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk. So I ended up having a ton of meetings with the Academy. And I said, I want to call it HBCU in LA. And they were like, well, HBCU kind of makes it non-inclusive. And I said, look, I'm willing to work with you, but I need HBCU to be front and center, because there is no one who advocates on behalf of our institutions in this industry. So they said they understood, but then of course, they got silent, and I started hearing crickets, and I kept emailing and I wasn't hearing. And next thing you know, they had their own program, recruiting students and kind of, going out to our partners who we already had gone out to. And I literally was ready to quit. I was like, you know what? I wasn't trying to get a feather in my cap. I was literally trying to open the door for students of color and to put these institutions on the map in our industry. And I was ready to quit. But I said, you know what? I'm not quitting. I'm not stopping. I launched it anyway, my first year in 2017, with only 9 students when I was supposed to have 25. Wow. And so we did it, and it was incredibly successful. The next year, all those other partners that went the other way, they came back knocking, saying they still wanted to do something. And here we are now 8 years later, and we hosted over 130 students this year across 35 different companies and organizations.
Talk your stuff, Stacy. Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating to hear that, though, right? Like somebody would just flat out bite the idea and kind of like pass it off, and that, but that's life, I think, unfortunately. And kudos to you and your team for, like you said, sticking through it and pushing through and finding a way now to continue to grow that. And quite frankly, serving some humble pie. I maybe to those, others who kind of, bit the idea. What role do you see the future of DEI playing in the industry? Because I think it's part of the reason that you started, but kind of a two-part question here, right? Because you talked about even in utilizing the HBCU name in the acronym and in the social media and all of that. Mm-hmm. Some people, the uninitiated maybe, may look at this as affirmative action, right? And so how do you kind of avoid that stigma, but understanding the importance of the DEI initiative, and as you alluded to so eloquently a couple of times here, just giving opportunities, providing those opportunities to those who may not always have an opportunity to get there?
Yeah, I think that in and of itself is the importance, right? Because if we do not level the playing field and create access and opportunity, it will become this very, it will stay insular. We will not move the needle. We will not tell stories authentically. We will not have real, we will not have the right cultural mix into what we do in this industry. And it is just needed. I mean, plain and simple. I mean, it's been so many reports have been done about why this is important, the amount of money that the industry leaves on the table. It's just important. When you look at agencies and all the diverse talent that they represent, they want to see people within those executive suites and on their teams that look like them, that can really help them. So I think it plays a vital role. Obviously, there's a lot of pushback, and I think that's out of fear, right? But we have to face the fact we are becoming a majority minority nation in very short time, So it's important from a bottom line perspective, but also just from a, it's just good business to do it. But we as a community have to keep that door that we have open. And unfortunately, due to the George Floyd unfortunate situation, we're now on the map, right? Yeah. But again, that window's open, but it will quickly close. And so you see how quickly it was beginning and is beginning to close, even with this new Supreme Court ruling, right? We can't just say it has to be this group or that. And I'm like, well, why not? But anyway, that's where we are. But I think the inroads that we've been able to make, and I didn't just fall off the turnip truck doing this after George Floyd, I've been doing it before that. And so I think our industry partners are realizing the value and the commitment of our work, and they're seeing a return on their investment because we sit on about a 90% conversion rate from intern to hire. We now have a young man that's a literary agent in this industry, a young junior exec that is a creative executive. So can we affect the C-suite? Absolutely we can. And we can help continue to tell authentic stories and bring real diverse talent and their perspectives to the table. And that's just critically important for any industry, quite frankly.
90% is crazy, Stacy. That's crazy. So congratulations, on that accomplishment. Last one before we go to break really quickly. So you've talked about the support. We've talked about even some aspects of some of the challenges, right? But when you talk about a studio or a partner, who was the first to step up and, and say, what, we're going to put our money where our mouth is to help you get that original 9, kind of placed when you started this X amount of years ago?
Oh, wow. I love to be able to tell that. So it was DreamWorks Animation, a young man who traveled with us when we did our college tour. And I was like, you know what? I'm coming back to you all. We're going to step it up. Because it's one thing to travel with me to colleges and we get everybody all excited and we drape a table. But if you're not hiring anybody, what are we doing? Right. So I said, what I want to do is take it to another level, because I would say, so, how many interns did you bring in, this summer as a result of our tour? None. And that doesn't work. So I said, okay, what I'm going to do, or they would say to me, they made offers, but the students couldn't accept it because they couldn't afford to live in LA. Yeah. So I said, okay, if you guys put your money where your mouth is, help me underwrite the cost of housing. I'll stand up some housing and you can host them for a paid internship. So DreamWorks was like, we're in. And then the Walt Disney Company. And then it was BET, Paramount, under Paramount's arm. So those were a couple of the companies that stood up right away. And then the others quickly followed.
Well, shout out to DreamWorks. I love what they do, in the entertainment space too, but also glad that they were one of the first in essence, to kind of step up and help you with this initiative. We are talking to Stacy Milner right here on Dope Interviews. Make sure you follow her initiative at HBCU in LA. And don't forget, applications are opening up August 19th. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the other side of this break here on Dope Interviews with Stacy Milner. We'll be right back. Are you ready to amplify your fantasy sports game? PrizePicks is here to make your basketball season even more exhilarating. Imagine transforming a modest $10 entry into a staggering $1,000. Whether you're rooting for basketball, baseball, or diving into the realm of esports, PrizePicks caters to all. If you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week. From lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays, which increases your chance of getting a win, to getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. I grew up playing baseball, and I'm also enjoying the wave of excitement in the WNBA. You can be sure I'll be mixing and matching my picks from across leagues. Why wait? Get the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code CLNS to match your first deposit up to $100. Your selections can include projections like Jason Tatum for more than 10 rebounds, Luka Doncic for more than 29 points, Caitlin Clark for more than 3.5 3-pointers, and even Breanna Stewart for more than 23 points. Make sure to use the promo code CLNS for your deposit match. Let's conquer the fantasy sports world together. Pick more, pick less using the code CLNS at PrizePicks. And stick around for more insightful discussions right here on Dope Interviews. And we're back here in Dope Interviews with Stacy Milner. Stacy, thank you so much for sharing, the impetus of the story and some of the great partners that have, helped you along the way to kind of get things going. Tell us a little bit about, because we went before the break, we said August 19th, applications are opening. What goes into the application process? How do you select who gets to join this prestigious and illustrious program?
Well, wonderful. We have on average about 2,000 students that apply for the program. And as I mentioned, we had 130 students, so you can see how tough it is to get in. But we really pride ourselves on combing and pulling in the best and the brightest. And not only from, a GPA perspective, but students who have been grinding, right, since like high school, and they get involved in like leadership roles on their college campuses, and they're doing, volunteer work. They're, working at a local station, but they're actually putting forth a resume that actually speaks to what it is they say they're passionate about. Don't tell me you want to be a writer, and I'm going like, okay, well, what plays have you been involved with on school? What short programs have you done? If you say, you're thinking about it, they're not quite there. So what goes into the process is we want a student that is passionate about this industry, knows somewhat of what they want to do, but also very open to exploring other aspects of the industry. So we require them to submit to us a competitive resume. And when I say competitive, that means that you show your passion in that resume. We know based on where a lot of students are, they don't have the same access that a USC or a UCLA student, or even an NYU that has a campus immersion program in LA. We know that. But have you been involved, right, in something that it is you say you're passionate about? And then we also require, we really kind of pushed away from the GPA, but we really do want a student that shows that dedication and that discipline academically. So if it's a 3.0, a low, maybe 2.8-ish, but can explain like why, we'll still put them through. We also require them to write a personal statement. Who are you? Why do you want to be involved in this program? What do you help that being involved in this program helps provide you for your long-term career goals? And being able to sell that on paper is really important. And we also have them create a video to show us, we've seen you on paper, now show us who you are from a personality perspective. And all of that, is what we want. Obviously, we like to have great letters of recommendation from academia, as well as from a professional organization that you may have been involved in. And that's really about it. Come with that passion, and it really comes through when you see the paperwork, because there's some students that will put through a personal statement, and it's literally, you can tell they just started typing on the page, and I got to get this in. And I'm like, there's a little bit more buttoning up that I want you to have. make it look like a heading, like
Yeah.
tell me something, right? Regurgitate what the question is and then start to answer it. So there's a lot of things that we read between the lines that we're not asking you for. And that's really what helps us to kind of determine who those students will be.
How many people help you determine, and break that 2,000 applications down? Like, what's that committee process like? How many people are on that?
Yeah, so we have a selection committee that consists of members of our team. And then we have some of our board members that are industry leaders and professionals in the industry. And they, together, we will all come together and choose exactly who we think to be the top. And we do it based on a few things, right? So we know we have a partner, let's say Pixar. We know that Pixar is going to want some really strong computer science, animation, 3D students. So it's not, just looking for one particular group. We're looking on where are our partners, where are their opportunities, and then we begin to comb and put students into the pipeline based on those criterias.
So let's talk a little bit about more into the selection process, the aspect of, well, you have to be in an HBCU, right?
Right.
But do you have to be African American or Black, so to speak? Can you be Hispanic, Asian, white at an HBCU and still apply for this process?
Yeah. So thank you for that question. So actually, we do want you to attend an HBCU. That is first and foremost. But the other thing is that we also have students of color that are at, like a Georgia State. That's a predominantly Black institution, large minority serving institution. As long as you're a student of color, this is where you want to be. But, our HBCUs are very diverse. So I am excited about the day that there's this white kid that stands up during one of our sessions and say, yeah, I'm from Prairie View University and I da 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 da. So it is. So from the institutional perspective, it's HBCUs and other minority serving institutions, but our tag is HBCU.
Let's follow up on that, Stacy. So my wife, when she went to school, she was kind of a non-traditional age student, right? So she went towards the latter part. So are you seeing any of that, that non-traditional 18 to 22-year-old? Are you getting applicants that might be a little bit older in their journey, so to speak? And, what's the acceptance rate, for them as you're evaluating them to this program?
Yeah. They are absolutely, we do see that. We don't see as much, but we have had them in just about every program over the 8 years that we've been doing it. One young lady had to make the decision that I have to leave my kid home with my family in order to come and take advantage of this opportunity. And then we also have, law school students that get involved in this program. So we have recent law school graduates or students that are, 1 or 2L, about to, graduate from law school involved in the program. And it's a little bit different. So even this year we had a master's student, right, that is just graduating with their master's from a PWI, but attended HBCU undergrad. So we allow that person to be a part of the program. But she's like, I'm much older than everybody else, but it works. At the end of the day, the community that we create and the opportunity we expand from undergrad to graduate, professional. We even have some PhDs that apply to this program. So it's across the board. The numbers aren't that large, but it's open to all of those levels. And we want them all in because, people start where they start. They finally get it together or decide I'm a pivot and I'm changing because I always did this because that's what my folks wanted. I've always had a passion for being a part of a creative, sector industry. And then they make that leap. So we definitely want them to know this is a soft place to land and step in a community that will embrace you.
Yeah. And one of the underlying themes I'm getting from this too is like you and your program will meet people where they're at. And it doesn't really matter wherever they're at, right? As long as you have the right passion and, some of the chops for where you're trying to go, you're willing to kind of pour into them and feed into them. And, people need that, because sometimes they are a little hesitant, am I making the right decision? They hear about these opportunities, but do they actually go full bore and kind of go for it? So it's amazing to hear that your program is, supporting them in that way. Can you tell me the moment when you knew this was working, like it was making an impact? Like what's, some of your greatest success stories with the students or people came back to you and said, dang it, Stacy, thank you so much, for creating this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I also want to tell people, so check out our LinkedIn, because we have an EICOP, which stands for Entertainment Industry College Outreach Program, that is just our alumni, current cohort members, just sharing their testimonies about the impact of this program. So we just wrapped up this past Friday was the last day of the program. And Thursday before, we did a whole like session with just them sharing about the impact of being a part of the program for the summer. And the words I keep hearing is transformational, life changing. You know, it's like, you have literally changed my life. My life will never be the same. This summer gave me clarity and direction and vision. And it also let me know that this is something that I can do and I can be successful in it. So, you know, the success stories every year, when you say, when did I know that this was working? The very first year.
Yep.
And the reason why I knew that is because we had that small little cohort. And out of that cohort, we had a conversion. We had a CEO of a major PR firm say, I'm going to create a spot for this young lady. And she was a recent MBA grad and ended up getting a job. And so we were over at the Walt Disney Company that day, and some of the recruiters heard her say that she got a job offer, and they tapped me on the shoulder and they're like, Stacy, do you realize how hard that is? We even here at Disney have a tough time converting our interns, that you got a conversion your first year out. So that let me know right away that we're onto something.
Yep.
And then every year they kept getting jobs. And I'm like, wow. So I knew that it was working. And, you know, and now that the industry is pulling us, like, let's do this in New York. Can we do this in Atlanta? Yes, because they all knew and were hearing from their colleagues that this program is amazing. And we're getting the best and brightest students, and they're doing so well that we're hiring them left and right. So I kind of knew early, but I also, because I'm come out of the industry, I know what this industry's etiquette and protocol is. I know what they're looking for. And so we're able to provide those wraparound services to give them the edge on how to show up in these spaces and how to navigate it. And so, yeah, it's just been, I'm not going to say it's been totally easy, because we had to comb and find those students, and we had to really build those relationships and trust within the HBCU community.
Well, nothing worth doing ever is easy, right? I mean, that's definitely what they say. And I think that's proof positive of what you have going on here. Who was, now we talked about, you know, Pixar kind of being the first one in the entertainment space. You've been able to branch out into some other spaces, right? I think you just kind of even alluded to that. You know, who was the first business outside of entertainment that reached out? Because you're doing stuff in sports and all kind of all over the place now as well, too. You know, who reached out and said, you know what, Stacy, us too?
It was Major League Baseball. They loved what we were doing and wanted to be involved. And actually, it was a student that was interviewing for something with MLB. And the student was talking about the previous year that they were part of this HBCU in LA program. So they're like, what? And then we ended up getting a call. Another thing happened with a young lady who was working at Chanel, the fashion house. And so like, hey, can we want to talk about partnerships. So now you got sports, you got fashion, obviously the music side. Universal Music Group was another group that had reached out to us and wanted to do something. So yeah, I mean, and you know, to me, I'm like, we can do this with all industry. Why not have HBCUs on Wall Street? Right? We've got all these disciplines. So and I'm just trying to make sure that I do what I need to do and do it well before I start pulling in too many other verticals. But it's been a lot of different areas that we're pulling into. So I love the whole sports component. I love the thought about the fashion side. And then we got the NBA Players Association involved. So, you know, basketball is on board. Actually, Chris Paul has been a major supporter of this program and sponsors 5 students every year to be a part of this program. So, so it's expanding and growing.
Yeah, shout out to Chris Paul. Obviously I'm a big sports guy. Most of my other podcast work is in the sports industry, so it's been amazing to kind of watch that transformation as well too. But I got to ask you, Stacy, how are you gonna have the bandwidth? If all these people come a knocking, and the HBCU space is continuing to grow, more people, word of mouth is spreading about this. How are you going to manage it? Like, what is the plans for growth to be able to manage this influx of business?
Right. Well, we are in development phase right now because we know that our capacity is going to have to build, right, to be able to manage in multiple geographical locations. And then you'll have multiple verticals of businesses that you're working with. So it really is now about our development team actually putting together, going after substantial grants and funding and, continued fundraising within our communities, and then outside, those that are looking to really give into a program that is changing and impacting lives and changing industry. Those are the partners and companies that we'll be going after. But literally, it's our development team now that I have had to hire because I want to be ready. I don't want to turn down anything because I feel like anytime I say no, it's creating a blockage for me to create an inroad for someone to be a part of this industry or any organization that they want to be a part of. So I'm welcoming them all as much as I can. So I think we're positioned though. We've got a plan in place and we've got a development strategy. And it really is now about strategically and intentionally building that so that we can continue to stand and make this a legacy and history to live beyond me. I always say, we know about UNCF. We know about the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. We know about some of these great organizations that have been around forever. I just want us to now we've allowed them to get an education, but now we want to have a way for them to be able to use that educated mind, because I think that would be a more terrible thing to waste.
Last one, Stacy. It's been such an amazing opportunity to chat with you. Just kind of hopes and dreams, for not only just the growth, but as we're seeing these young HBCU students kind of get in there, what insight do you have for them, as future industry and entertainment leaders?
We need you. There is a place for you. And, we're a place to start. But as my alumni say to me all the time, they say, Mama Stacy, we're going to revolutionize this industry. And I will tell you, they have a community and a network right now, and they are banding together. They're working with each other on their own projects. They're sharing where those next opportunities are. And I literally see them like in those executive suites. I see them on set. I see them behind the scenes. They are doing it. So there is a place. And I just know that the next generation is going to be that generation that's going to usher in the real change that we need to see in our industry and beyond.
I absolutely love it. I think that's an amazing place to kind of wrap our conversation here today. There's obviously a lot we can get into, so maybe we will have part 2 at some point, but Stacy Milner, thank you so much, for sharing your insight, the great work that you're doing. If anyone's listening to this, watching this, they can tell you're doing this not for your accolades and pats on your back. You're truly doing it for the people and making a true impact into this space. So thank you for that. Continued success in this work that you do. Right. So before we wrap, tell them where, again, applications are open when and until when.
So applications will open August 19th and they will close October 25. And you can go to EICOP.org. And pull down the tab to begin your application. We want to see as many HBCU students in that talent pool as possible. And I look forward to having you, hopefully, a part of our 2025 cohort. But now is the time to do it. And I will tell you, if this scares you to apply, I don't know if I can do it. Just know that means you're dreaming in the right direction, because any dream you have should scare you. Apply for this program. You will land in a space where you're supposed to be.
All right. I'm about to go fill out my HBCU application so I can get in as well too. I am Warren Shaw. Make sure you hit me up at Shaw Sports NBA or at @dope_interview on your social media platforms. As always, you know what it is. I'm Warren Shaw, as I alluded to on the 19 Media Group platform. She is the amazing Stacy Milner. Make sure you tap in with HBCU in LA. We'll catch you next time on Dope Interviews. Peace out.
Together we stand, divided we never. The vision is one, striving for the better. Working as a team, working toward a dream. It's not even work when the team is the dream. On a united front, we got our own back. A band of brothers to counteract any attack. One heart in fact, forget what the blood say. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. So let's do it for the love, give to the max. Listen to opinion, but react to facts. And remember that together we're the shh, but separate, just pieces of it. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
Family represent like a tree with names on it. We're free, no chains on it. Relieved, the pain's gone, I can see. We come together like questions on the quiz. Mojo Flow and Viz, man, you know what it is. And if ignorance is bliss, you're gonna hate this lesson. Organized intellect like a tropical depression. My symbol is the cross, a mic and ghost peppers. Cause I'm just a black sheep growing up to be a shepherd. Moonlighting as a weapon to protect the children. Every brother is a father, dynasties we're building. Max, J and K, Bay, and Isaiah, next level of the family foundation. Understand me?